And we back. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Watch Your Mouth Reviews. This is your boy James. I am here to give my honest review while trying to watch my mouth. It may happen in this video, but too much going on. Joining me as always, my special guest, my co-host, Mrs. Best. Y'all say what's up to her.
Hello and happiest of Saturdays. Like the video.
Yes, like the video and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to both channels. Any videos or recaps that I do not recap on my channel, 9 out of 10, we recap on Mrs. Beth's channels. We have Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. We have Basketball Wives. Happy Saturday, Jim Bunny. Thank you for being here, love. And then also coming up as well, we do have Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and Miami on Mrs. Beth's channel. And I ain't taking the rest, y'all. Don't forget, I have Love and Marriage Detroit premiering on my channel again. We'll see if I keep it this time around. That is happening next Saturday. Also, coming on my channel, I'm hearing that Real Housewives of Salt Lake City will be September as well. I think I made that announcement on my channel, so we'll have Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. I'm excited to see the ladies back. I hope they bring it without Monica. I don't know. We'll see. So, let's get into what we're here to talk about. The Braxtons. It's a season 2 episode for y'all. It was an alright episode for the long part, so we ain't gonna be here too long. But the show opens up where with the sisters Tawanda and Trina with their boyfriend and husband. They are in Baltimore. They're here to check on little Kevin because overall he got arrested a couple episodes. He is out released now, so they're here to check in on him and see what's going on. I tune in for the Love and Marriage Detroit. I don't watch it, but I'll definitely will support. Thank you, Jim Bunny. We appreciate you. And yes, you're going to want to come in because we going in on them. Are you doing the family values review? Are you talking about Braxton Family Values? Because this is what this is, unless there's another show called Family Values that I don't know. Let me know, Jim Bunny. But the show opens up with the ladies checking into Trina's Airbnb. They're walking around looking at the place, and then once they sit down, Tawanda says, we're here to check on Scratchy because, Scratchy just got released in prison. Vaughn asked what we always asking, who the hell is Scratchy? And so Trina had to tell him that's her nickname for little Kevin. She calls him Scratchy. And I said, so it took us to episode 4 to learn this? We didn't learn this when he was the beginning of her storyline? Never mind. Between auntie and nephew, never mind. I just thought it was a little strange. So
I think Tawanda bullshit that nickname just to be relevant on the show. I do think she has a relationship with Kevin, but we've seen her interact with him on the show before. He was always around Tracy. So it's very strange that when Braxton Family Values was on and you were around your nephew, you was never calling him that. Now, suddenly, now that his mother has passed away, you're calling him that.
Right,
I don't
exactly.
trust it. She's extremely disingenuous, and I feel like she is the main one, it seems, leading the ladies back to doing a show, which we'll probably talk about later towards the end. And she's always been the one that kind of needed validation, and in my opinion, needs this financially the most. So I side-eye Tawanda a lot.
Jim Bunny, the Texas Family Empire, you said yes, we'll do that live after we get done with this one. So make sure you stick around for that one because we going in, trust me. So after that little scene, we have a scene with Tony. She's driving around in the well, not her driving, but she's riding around on Rodeo Drive in the Maybach, and Trina calls her. And Trina says that they're in Baltimore. They're there to check with, little Kevin, see how he's doing and everything, and, tie up some loose ends. And Tony says, maybe we should reach out to Kevin Sr. and see how he's doing and try to make amends now that Tracy is gone. Trina said, absolutely not, Tony Braxton. I will not be doing that. You see how things left off. And we go into this montage of Trina in her confessional saying that, Kevin Sr., when Tracy had passed, he went against a lot of her wishes, one being having a funeral for her. Tracy did not want a funeral. She didn't want people to be sad from her going away. And Trina felt that was disrespectful because it wasn't honoring her wish. And Tony makes a point to say, well, they were married, and we can't tell her husband how to grieve her or how to celebrate her life now that she's no longer here. So it's not really fair, and you don't know what they would have talked about in the bedside manner. And Trina was standing on 10. She said, absolutely not. I was there. Her last final wishes. I saw her take her last breath. She said she did not want no funeral. She said she did not want that. They did not discuss anything. And I said, well, Trina, Tony does have a point. You don't know what they talked about. You don't know what his desire, and that is still her husband technically. So you anything that his desires wishes of honoring his wife, he should be allowed to do so. So I kind of felt like Trina was being slightly unreasonable, but at the same time, they are her sisters and they do know her probably better than he knows her. So, Mrs. Best, how did you feel about the interaction between Tony and Trina?
Um, I think it's petty of the sisters to hold something against Kevin. They've never liked him because of the fact that he cheated and has not always, he wasn't the best husband to Tracy, which we all know from them doing marriage boot camp, but they've never liked him. I feel personally like they should push their nephew to talk to his only living parent.
Yes.
That's just personally how I feel. There were a lot of gaps in their closeness and their interactions with Tracy. Prior, Tracy always was called and referred to in earlier seasons as the wannabe because she had the baby, Kevin Jr., and was with her husband, and I don't know. I just feel like they should be pushing their nephew to at least try to have a relationship with his only living parent. I
I
don't like
think
how
it would
any of
be better.
are moving. It's still her
Yeah,
husband. And here's the thing. When people die, they say, I don't want this, I don't want that, because, I don't want people to be sad. Either way, whether you do or do not have a funeral, people are going to be sad. I feel like, though that may have gone against her wish, it sounds harsh. She is not here on the planet, unfortunately, and her husband has the right to grieve his wife the way that he chooses. If he felt the need to have a funeral, then that's what he felt the need to have. But do I think it's a big deal to like crucify him and treat him like this horrible person for having a funeral? No. The other stuff that we'll talk about later, I feel differently. But with the funeral thing, let that man grieve however the hell he feels the need to grieve.
I 100% agree with that. And yeah, with that said, we'll go ahead and move on to the next scene, which is the couples go out on this race car little drive thing. It was cute. It was all right. We learned that Trina's a slow driver just like myself. So, it was funny to watch. But then they sit down and they have lunch. And Trina brings up how Sean has not proposed to Tawanda, although in 2020, when they were shooting Braxton Family Values, he went to go see Mr. Braxton, their dad, to ask for his permission for marriage. And I forgot about this scene, and I forgot that was even a conversation. But it cracked me up when Mr. Braxton said, if I don't give you my blessing, you just gonna marry her anyway. And I'm kind of one of those people, you don't need my parents' permission to ask me to marry, but that ain't nothing. I'm out their house. I could see if I was under their roof and a kid, that was some shit that somebody created because marriage was one of those situations where your father probably traded their daughter for, a goat, a cow, some eggs, and, some chickens. That's probably what happened. So it's really stupid. That's a old, like, ridiculous saying these days. But Tawanda says, "Hush, hush, don't even pay attention to it," because she doesn't want to give, from her point, pressure for this man to propose to her. Like, because then it's not going to be him wanting to do it; it's going to be from her pressure of her needing that, which I can 100% respect. Ladies, do not pressure men to marry you, because if they wanted to do it, they will step up and do it. You should
But
never have to
also,
pressure.
don't wait 7 goddamn years neither. I'm
I
putting
don't
that out
believe in that
there.
either. Yeah,
I'm putting that out there. It don't take that damn long to know. Okay, that's a whole fucking decade. He got her. He fucking up the church's pieces of change with that. That's way too long. That is way too long. Do not wait more than I'd say 5. I'd say 5.
oh,
Some
I was
men,
gonna say 3, but okay.
hey, I mean, I think 3 is a good number. I got married after 3 years. I didn't
Yeah, I
want
think
to.
3. Honestly, y'all, 3 years is long enough to, especially if you're checking up with the person. 3 years is long enough to determine whether or not we should take this the next step, which is get married. If they don't do it in 3 years and start packing up your shit and move out, they'll get the clue. And if they don't get the clue, that wasn't the one for you. So thank God for your blessing and small favors. Just saying. So let's see. After that happened, what are we going to talk about next? Tamar goes on the podcast We Sound Crazy, which I do watch. I do love that podcast. Shout out to them, all of them. I would love to be a special guest or a co-host. Hey, how y'all doing? But they talked to Tamar about a lot of her traumas with therapy and everything, and how she's going throughout the process. And Tamar says that, she realized she had to be a better person, not only for herself, but for her son, and just, make sure she was living the healthiest that she could live mentally, which we all can appreciate. Me and Mrs. Best are both mental health advocates. Seek therapy if you need it. Do not be discouraged, especially if you are Black. Do not listen to them ignorant ass uncles and aunties and even maybe grandparents that tell you, don't tell the people your business. They just nosy and just crazy. No, 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 no. Therapy, as I say on my channel all the time, is there to interrupt the pattern if you are 100% honest. And a lot of times why therapy doesn't work is because people aren't honest. If you are honest about the situation where you are, and I mean speaking it from your heart, not your mind, therapy would benefit you. So don't let people tell you it won't. So I really appreciate her having that clause in the show where she's talking about her mental health. And they also bring awareness that the cameras are in the room. So obviously the show is coming back. And they asked Tamar what made her decide to do the show. So she said clearly, she goes, I did not want to do the show because of my last experience. Tamar feels when she did Braxton Family Values, she felt like they really did not highlight who she was. They were only highlight the antics, the things about her and her sisters that she enjoyed, which is the singing and all the adventures. That's who she really is, not the antics that the network tried to put her out to be. I feel like hindsight is 2020. I feel like is a part of you that you don't want to acknowledge is there. But at the same time, I do see that sometimes networks can, highlight the rambunctious part of you versus the more you that's more demure pure. So Mrs. Best, before I jump into the next part of this scene, do you have anything you want to add to the mental health and her deciding to go on Braxton Family Values?
Not particularly. Tamar has been speaking about her mental health struggles openly. So I'm glad that she does it, and I hope she continues to grow. That's about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and her answer to wanting to come back on the show was because, her family did it to honor Tracy because she wanted to do the show and document her life, but she unfortunately did not get that chance. Her life, battling the cancer. So her mother approached her and said that they really would like to do the show. So she gave in and decided to do it. And to me, I kind of felt like, and this is how Tamar is the biggest asset to them getting the TV show, because the network felt like they needed her. And I'm going to say allegedly because I was not there to hear any of the contracts or to read any of them. But I feel like they knew they were going to have a show without Tamar. Bottom line. Because they could have easily did the show without her like they tried to in 2020. But the network's like, if we don't have Tamar, there's no show. That's how I feel. Allegedly, that's how I think it went. So, Mrs. Best, do you think that that's how that went? Because it felt like that's what she was saying.
I'm going to say this. I feel like Tamar will do the show because her sisters need it to some extent, regardless how people feel on how she responds. You can tell that she does love her family and her siblings. She has more followers than Toni Braxton on social media. So regardless of how people feel about her, I think we could say that she's the one that does not need the show. So, but at the same time, her antics and how childish she behaves when she gets around her sisters, especially when she's agitated or triggered, that's what makes TV. By themselves, no shade, I'll use the scene with Tawanda and Trina going to the go-kart. That shit was boring as hell. I did not care to see it. They husbands is just boring. They just want to be with their wives. They not trying to be on the show when it shows. So at least she gives us something interesting outside of Toni. So I believe it. But Tawanda will never admit it.
There you have it, y'all. So that was pretty much, the scene. Shout out to once again, We Sound Crazy's podcast for being on the show because a lot of people don't know about that podcast, but I know and I love it. So I'm glad that they were able to get their shine. Um, Moving on from there, we have a scene where the family in Baltimore is going out to dinner, and the place was called Jenny's. And the reason why I'm calling it the restaurant, y'all know how I do. Me and Mrs. Best, when we go on our travel rampage, we got to go to certain restaurants. I'm a huge seafood advocate. I love it. So that is a place I want to try. So I just want to put that out there before we go there. So all of the family that is in Baltimore. So we had, of course, Trina and Tawanda, their men. Father Braxton shows up, and then you have Michael, their brother, with his children. They all showed up for little Kevin. So once little Kevin get there, what's the play again? Sorry, Jim, but that's another time. I don't know what you mean. Sorry, love. But put it in there. I'll read it back when you respond. But so once they get to the restaurant, Tawanda gets there first with her boyfriend, and they talk about this whole wedding talk. Tawanda excuses herself, and then when she comes back, I'm not going to even go over that because we know in real time they are engaged, so I'm not even going to go over that. I have to check it out. Baltimore is not far from. Oh, the restaurant's called Jenny's, Jinny, famous seafood. That's what it's called, Jim Bunny. Sorry. Thank you for clarifying that. Sorry. Thank you for clarifying it. But so once everyone gets into the room, and little Kevin sits there, he looks at his family and he goes, "How are all of you doing with my mother's, death?" And Tawanda says, it's like, damn, she really isn't here. And I have moments like that as well, where, there's moments I want to call my dad and I realize, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to get through because he's not here. So I definitely felt her in that moment. Trina was on the verge of tears, and I believe one of the cousins asked, "Well, how do you feel? Like, what can we do for you?" Because well, Kevin said that he doesn't want to reach out to anyone unless it's a dire emergency, and we realized that he doesn't have the support of his father, which is hurtful to him because he's trying to understand his father's grief, but his father pretty much put on blast that Kevin is the executor of Tracy's will. And he doesn't understand how that could happen because he's the husband and he feels like he should have been the executor of her will, her likeness, and her brand. And all the sisters made it very clear that your mother chose you because she could have easily chose one of us to take over her estate, and she didn't. And Trina makes it apparent that I will get you the proof that you need so that way you can continue forward with knowing that this is what your mother wanted. And you can tell even in his expression that he wanted to cry in that scene. And it was hard for me to watch it because I was him, or I still am him. So it was hard for me to really watch and really, listen to, the father saying, she used to send me text messages and, make me laugh and everything. And I miss that. And his uncle, Michael Jr. saying that, hey, also, you have to understand from your dad's perspective, he may not understand you at this moment. He may not understand because he's going through crazy situations. He's not privileged a lot of the times to conversations that you and your mother would have. And Kevin, I think, still doesn't understand, and which I wouldn't either, because I'm still your child, regardless of you losing your spouse. I'm still the child and I still need you. And you're worried about the wrong thing. You're worried about the money and the legacy and the things that you should have been in control of. And I find it hard to believe, and this is just going to be my opinion. I find it hard to believe that Tracy didn't leave him with anything. I'm sure he had some insurance. I'm sure he had their home paid off or, whatever assets he got with her. I am sure he owns all those things. I'm sure she didn't leave him homeless. Like, I don't think Tracy's that cold hearted. And this is all allegedly because I have not seen any court documents, so I don't know what she left him. But I would like to think with the person she was and how much she really did love her husband, that she just didn't leave him out destitute. She just wanted her legacy to continue on with the next generation. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. So, Mrs. Best, how did you feel watching that scene?
This family, I don't think that they're trying to honor Tracy. I just don't. It feels like people using her a little bit for clicks, fame, money, whatever you call it, because how all these people obviously were hurt, but to bring up like such vivid memories and stuff right in front of the son when he's viscerally upset, it's a bit old. You could tell they're hurting, but I just wish some of this they did not put on camera. As for his dad, I know without a shadow of a doubt because my husband watched the episode with me and he said, "Man, Benji, I don't know what I'd do if you passed away. I know for damn sure I wouldn't be thinking about no fucking legacy. I would want somebody else to lead it because I wouldn't be able to do it." So, you know, I don't know. Maybe they had a different type of love, but it's very strange that he's concerned about being able to have control of her assets, income, and legacy when the only reason you guys are on TV is because she is related to Tony Braxton. It has nothing to do with you, sir. It's a
You know
little
what's
strange
funny?
making it materialistic. And why would you then feel angry at your child, the only piece of her that is still living on the planet? Why would you? Why? It just does not make sense to me. So he's definitely looking for monetization and uh, materialistic points of view versus grief. And that's the part that's strange to me. Get a fucking job, bruh. That's how I feel with her husband on that. Get a job, seek therapy, and stop taking it out on your child, from what I got from that conversation.
Yeah, I'm going to add to that, but in another scene. I'm not going to do it on this one because something you said was very profound, and I'm going to make that exact point in the scene with the lawyer. But before we get to the scene with the lawyer, we have to have a small scene with Tamar. Tamar is working out with her assistant, and it was a funny scene. And this is why I said Tamar really is the show because this scene was hilarious. When that assistant was windmilling that punch bag, I was just hollering in here. And Tamar said, "No, no, no. I know you lying. I know that ain't how you do it. All that mouth you got, I know that ain't how it go." And he said, "I've never been in no fight before. I don't." I'm like, "Oh, wow, okay. I would love to see more interaction." But she tells him that she's ready to work on another record, and that it's been a few years since she's had one, so she's really afraid to put herself back out there like that. And she also says she's probably more excited about the book than she is doing the record. And he says that you owe the world your voice and to make that record happen. You're going to be great regardless because your music has brought me through some tough times. So definitely go and do that. And I think that's the encouragement that she needs because regardless of her antics and who she is and the extraness, Tamar has a beautiful gift. I have to give that to her. She has a beautiful gift. Like I was listening to her first album because I had forgot about the first album. And I can remember like me being a child hearing her single, If You Don't Want to Love Me. Like I can remember exactly where I was and I was singing that song as well. And I knew her even from the Try Me from the Kingdom Come album because I love that movie. So it's like she has such a beautiful gift and she does make beautiful music. So I hope that she just takes that part of it and not worry about the marketing part of it or the accolades from it. Just do it because that's the gift that you enjoy giving. That's all I'm gonna say to Tamar on that part. Anything you want to add, Mrs. Best, before I move on?
No.
Okay, perfect. So let's move on. So Trina keeping her word because she invites the family lawyer Antavius to the meeting with little Kevin. And from what we get of this meeting, Antavius told him that your mother was definitely in her right mind when she drew up her will. And one of the things that she said, she's only want one person in charge of her legacy, likeness, and estate. And that was you. I have the recordings. I have everything here. And she was definitely, this was even before she was even diagnosed with cancer. She made sure to let me know that she wanted you to be in charge of everything. And so Lil Kevin getting that reassurance that her voice recordings says this, he, is now side eyeing his father because from his point, his father is saying that you don't understand. Like, I don't know why she believed this to you. Until you've been married, which he is married, I don't know why he said that because your son is a husband to somebody. So that just goes to show that this is really out of vanity for you, sir, because you feel, and this is why I'm thinking going back to, the timeline, because Tony Braxton was huge when Tracy would have met him and conceived this child. So I think in my this is my personal opinion, and this is allegedly, I'm not saying this is true by any means, but how I feel is that there was some fantasy of you being with Tony Braxton's sister. And I think that you held on to that fantasy that you're with her sister, and then her career started, and Tracy's career picked up where she was doing her own music, being a star on this show, going for several seasons, getting all of this build up in her legacy and her business. And you are along for the ride, and you think you're entitled to that because you held on to that instead of making a market for yourself. That's not your son's fault that you didn't do anything and that he's only taking on his bloodline and doing what his mother wanted him to do with it. That's not his fault. So that's where I feel like this fan is coming from, is that you held onto a fantasy. Tracy's career blew up and you was just on along for the ride, and you thought maybe when the time did come that if you did outlive her, that would go to you. And I don't know where husbands get that. If you have children, you should want that to go to your children because they're the next generation up. So something tells me that this was only a fantasy in his mind. Do I think he loved her? Absolutely. I'm not denying that at all. But I think there's a part of him that had a fantasy of being involved with Tony Braxton's sister. And that's how I feel. Mrs. Best, how do you feel about the theme of Kevin getting that reassurance?
Um, I felt two ways. That's still his only living parent, so I would like it if they didn't just entirely trash him or make him out to be the entire enemy on the show. But then at the same time, he's put himself in that situation because the whole thing to me is shallow. It is very likely because around the time they got together, the girls were in a group and Tony Braxton had not been huge yet individually because Tracy was left behind from the group that they were all signed to. So I don't think that that's it. But I think that as Tony Braxton's career got big, he probably viewed it as something lucrative because he's showing that now because that's the only reason that they're relevant. But yeah, she had left the group because she was pregnant with Kevin. They didn't want to sign them as a group. And they went on without Tracy. They got signed. And then later down the line, once Kevin was already born, that's when Tony Braxton's career blew up. But I do think you're right with him definitely taking advantage of the Braxton legacy, which doesn't belong to him. And I can understand how it could be difficult to be with someone so much bigger than you or so much more relevant than you. But please do better. And I think that's part of the reason all these women struggle with men. Every last one of them. Because in some ways, to be with a man, they gotta like live up under their shadow or have their own success like Vaughn. I think that's why he's more chill compared to the other men, a little less thirsty. He has his own success outside of the show. So I don't know. It's unfortunate, but I hope his dad comes to his senses. I do.
I hope he does too, because there's nothing worse than losing one parent and then the other one is not available to you as well because of the outcome of something that's monetary, or it just is so unfortunate. And I feel like with the timeline, because one thing I'm going back to, because something that you said about Tony wasn't as big, so I kind of want to rewind. When I watched the first episode, or when I watched her interview that they had did, Trina got her pregnant originally when all five of the girls were in the group together, and then when Tony went single and the girls did the four thing, that's when Tracy got pregnant, and then they decided to do the three of them, which was Trina, Tawanda, and Tamar. That's how I recall watching it and listening to the interview, and I could be wrong as well.
Yeah, she wasn't big yet. It hadn't happened. She had her deal, but she wasn't known yet, is the problem. But I don't
Okay.
think that he used her in the beginning. I think they had some stupid teenage love where they forgot the use of condoms. But it's sad that he's kind of proving the sisters right in their feelings about him from earlier seasons to now and throughout the years, and he wasn't the best husband. So it's like it's one thing to have not treated her right when she was here. You know that that lady would be coming upside your head if you were to play with her child.
Well, not only that, it was also she wouldn't appreciate the fact that you're worried about who her legacy is left to versus worrying about how is your son handling his mother being no longer present on this earth. Like to me, that's what I'm kind of. That's why I'm saying that. That's why I say it's a fantasy because to me, I feel like my mother wasn't worried about the monetary gain. She was worried if I was okay. I think that that's where I kind of like, no, you need to know if your child is okay, and if he's not okay, how do we make it to where whether if it's me going to therapy with you, or if it's me hanging out with you, cooking, barbecuing, making sure that you have as much as my time as possible. That is what I'm looking for. That's why I said he's worried about the wrong thing.
He is, but
That
I also think like I do work in mental health and people do show grief weirdly. He could also be grieving and potentially just trying to feel like he's still a part of her because now that she's gone, the family ain't got no reason to deal with him. I don't know what's going on, but I just don't feel like it all needs to be put on camera.
yeah,
Uh,
I agree.
that's the part that bothers me with this season. You know, if you're gonna honor Tracy, go do goofy things together. Go, sing or promote her music that she made, which was important to her before she left. Like there are other things that they can do to honor Tracy
I mean,
instead of furthering and profiting and publicizing the wedge that her son is having with his father and her husband. Is it's just a little distasteful to me the more that we get into the season. But if this is what they choose to do and they're comfortable with doing that, then I mean, hell, what the hell could we do other than show up on YouTube on Saturday and recap
yeah,
it?
and in recapping, yeah, because that's where I'm at with it because I kind of feel like, because I did lose a parent, I kind of feel like, one of those situations I can relate to. This is one of those situations I can 100% relate to in the matter of the loss. In the matter of the loss. Now, as far as the technical side or the, probate and everything, I can't relate to that. But what I can do is have very much empathy for him and even, his father. I have empathy for it because I couldn't imagine. I could not imagine being with someone for 30 years, them leaving this earth, and I have to contend with them. So I have empathy for him as well. But at the same time, I don't like how he's handling his son. And once again, this is one sided. We don't have his side. So there's also another part to this or another component we are missing. So at the same time, I only can go based on what I'm seeing, which is why I have the viewpoint that I have of him. So I want to make sure I clarify that too. I only have this viewpoint because that's how they're making it look. And based on previous experiences, they weren't always positive about him. So that's another situation that we need to, kind of see what happens and, hope for the best. I hope that they get back on track. I hope that things work out. And if not, that is so unfortunate because I think he needs it more than we clearly can see. So after the lawyers' meeting, Trina goes back to the Airbnb, and here come Sean and Tawanda, wanting to know what happened, wanting to, get the tea on
Why
everything.
is the middle? I apologize. Why is the middle of that man's beard white? What is he thinks is cool? And you're not cool, Sean. You're not cool. Fix. I don't understand the beard, but that's all. I apologize. Back to there. You go. I'm done.
Anyways, and Trina basically tells everyone that she's proud of him for going into that lawyer's office and saying that, I was born a Braxton. Like this is my mother's legacy that I'm going to honor. You married into this family. And it was like, and Trina, I was all like, Trina, like, that's nothing to really gloat about like that. At the same time, that's still his father, regardless of what they may feel. But at the same time, they're entitled to feel because they've experienced him. I have not experienced him, so I don't know what he's like. But I was just kind of like, Trina, that ain't nothing to gloat about. And Trina lets it be known to Tawanda that apparently production was going to go forward with a meeting between Kevin Sr., Kevin Jr., and Mr. Braxton. And Tawanda twitched and was like, oh no, I know that's not happening. Not on my watch. I know that's not happening. And she calls the producer out, breaking the fourth wall because she's pissed. She goes, I want to make it clear. I am not giving that man a platform. He is not coming on here. And the producer was like, "Well, we thought it would be a good moment for Kevin Jr. to have a moment with his father and your father." She goes, "I don't care. It's not happening. Read me very clear. It's not happening." And I said to Wanda, "So let me make sure I understand this. I understand not giving somebody who you feel is not deserving of your platform the space and the opportunity. But at the same time, the same thing could be said about you being his aunt and using him for a storyline and everything like that, even though this is your platform. The same thing could be said about you." So I honestly did not like that. I don't think they should do it. Let me be clear. I don't think production should go forward with that because it is kind of like that shouldn't be on camera. Just from like a moral standpoint, I feel like that conversation between him and his son, and if Mr. Braxton wants to mediate that between them, that should not be on camera because it's a very touchy situation. But I didn't like when Tawanda did that because to me it was like, well, you're doing the same thing. You're emotionally putting your empath on him so that way he can come out and expose all of his business. So it's the same thing. But this is their platform. So who am I to say that what they can and cannot do? But I just felt like to me that's crazy that she did that. But hey, she is one of the executive producers. She can do what she wants. Mrs. Best, how did you feel about that closing scene?
This is why it's a problem that she's an executive producer, because you on here talking about this man and basically painting him in a bad light. All I could go off is based on what she has said about him, what they have shared. At least give him the right to speak about himself. If you don't want to give him a platform, then don't fucking talk about him. That's how you give him no platform, no energy, no nothing. But instead, you guys continue to talk about him to make him out to look like a bad father and somebody who was using Tracy and your family because he had a funeral for your sister. Would you rather he cheat on your sister again while she's healing from cancer or something? Like, it's just all starting to look very strange. But I was like, Tawanda, I didn't see the need to break the fourth wall. I didn't understand the need for all of that. That was really stupid and it made you look incredibly controlling and narcissistic. Why is it so important to you to have full control of what's happening, on this show and with this show? I don't like that per se. I just don't like it. So, and clearly Trina don't ever know what the hell going on. She just so TV being herself because she's like, oh. She looks so confused. I don't like the way Tawanda's behaving this season, and then she's sharing very little of her own life.
I mean, yeah, she is. She is sharing very little because we still have not seen her children. We still have
No, we
not.
saw the kids in the car.
When that
Literally
don't
last
count.
episode.
That
I
don't
mean, it counts. They're at the age where it's like they're not going to be in our face with the camera like that, but like she not showing much. And she keep talking about this person, so why would you expect for them not to try and get this person on camera?
I want to see her in production on the Tubi movies and stuff. That's what I think I really need to see. Maybe that might change my mind in her likeness. But I just didn't like that she did that either. I thought that was very distasteful because it's one of those situations where I feel like if you're going to go ahead and make that part of your storyline, I feel like Will Kevin has every right to try to make this, right with his father if he chooses to do it on camera. I don't think he should. I don't. I don't think he should. But at the same time, he's
It's
only
like
doing what.
if recappers talk about celebrities or whatever, giving our, like James does, unpopular opinions, and then the celebrity decides to talk about how recappers are talking about them. It's just a part of how it goes. If you talk about somebody else, you have to expect that they're going to talk about you publicly as well or be given a platform. So she didn't want him to have a fucking platform. You should have never mentioned him. Honor Tracy if that's what you're trying to do. But if you're trying to honor Tracy, it's very difficult to do without honoring and acknowledging her husband to some extent. Because when you honor somebody, you also got to honor who was important to her. And regardless on if she left him something or not, he was important to her to some extent. So,
Yeah, I
you
agree.
know, let it go.
Absolutely.
Say nothing. You don't have nothing nice to say. Don't say nothing at all, Tawanda. And put on a
Yeah.
wig, bitch. Sick of it.
Okay. With that being said, this is the end of the Braxtons, y'all. Overall, it was an okay episode. They need to spice it up a little bit. I need something else. I need either more of Tamar and Tony or I need something else. This is not cutting it for me. No disrespect
Put the
to
grandkids
Kevin.
on. They
Yeah, do
all really
something
young
different.
with babies. Maybe they got some story, but
Yeah, do something else because this is not what I was expecting. I was expecting a lot more fun, and I get Tracy was a big part of what made this show so much fun. But at the same time, they needed to spice it up a little bit more than this. I need something else. I'm still gonna keep it, y'all. I'm still gonna go into the finale, but it's a tough one to recap. I'm gonna tell you that now. But we're gonna go ahead and end the live here. The next one will be Family Empire Houston. Y'all do not want to miss it because that episode I had to watch 5 times because it was so crazy. So y'all, I'm telling you, you in for a treat. Thank you so much. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to both channels, both me and Mr. Best channels. Any recaps that I do not do on my channel, we probably will do on hers. So we thank you guys once again, and I'll see you on the next live.